Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome to another edition of eHeroes. Today's eHero is Tami McVay, and today we're going to talk about command, create, and conquer. These are three of the words that she has on the main page of her website, and this is very powerful stuff. And so I want all the listeners to pay attention because Tami is a former Marine, and she's going to drill this stuff into you. So welcome, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm pleased to be here and excited to talk about this. It's so critical.
So let's talk about the website because you got some great stuff on there, and not only about you, about what you do, about your retreat, but I think that your background is just critical to helping people. So many entrepreneurs, you know, you're just I think you're just a prime example of a perfect e-hero.
Well, thank you. Yeah, my background is so diverse and it's something that I've taken for granted all along. I just do what I do. But then I really started to dig into it. And so much of that is really taking command of your mind and creating this life that you really want to create. So even when I was in the Marine Corps and then I went on to corporate and then now as an entrepreneur, like it's a constant work in progress of really commanding my mind to stay focused on the things that I want to create.
When you were in the military, what was your rank?
So I got out as a corporal, which is an E4.
Mhm.
I spent 4 years and I went in right out of high school. I actually enlisted when I was 17. And, when you're young, you just take it for granted. You just do what you do. And
Mhm.
then now that I've gotten older, I have such an appreciation for it because I realize like how much that shaped me. I'm not going to complain about things. I'm not going to quit. I keep driving, and I'm definitely uh, much more appreciative of it now that I'm older.
So, how do you apply some of what you learned in the military to helping entrepreneurs?
It really comes down to, one thing the Marine Corps does is they break down that person so much and
Mm.
then they rebuild them into something stronger and more driven and determined. And so I do a similar process. Like I really make it a point to get them to look at themselves like all these things that have been holding them back, all these stories that they're making up in their head. And once they can get clear on that and start to accept it instead of letting have it be as just a chapter in their story, and now figure out like, okay, well, what do you want and why can't you have it, and what's it going to take, and really just be an encourager for them.
Mhm.
I think enough people don't really have that person behind them that's going to really just fuel
Mm.
them.
Is fear the biggest setback, or is it something else?
Fear and self-doubt,
Hmm.
feeling like you're going to be judged. A lot of times the people I've worked with, they've had some kind of setback. So overall, they're a confident, driven person, but then like one lost a business partner. And so they were doing it by themselves. So also the self doubt, like, can I do it by myself? Another one, you could be really great in business, you could be making money, but if your spouse is the person that is always putting you down, like what that does mentally. So to be able to create these buffers that protect yourself
Hmm.
without being rude, for lack of a better word.
I noticed from the background you have a. Is it a calendar? Is it something that keeps you on track? What is that?
So that's a whiteboard. I just did this brain dump of all these different military terms and philosophies that I have, and then how I could start to structure and move that around to be able to make it in a way for somebody that didn't have a military background and how it could really apply to them. So yeah, that's my inside of my brain right there.
So you're out of Colorado,
Yes,
and but you travel all over the place.
I do. So when I was in, growing up, my family didn't have money. I didn't grow up traveling. And I was even in the Marine Corps, as adventurous as it was, I was still only in a few places. And so once I moved to Colorado, I was really fortunate that I found friends that were really adventurous. So
Hmm.
they were like, "Hey, we're going to go mountain biking from Telluride to Moab. Do you want to go?" And I didn't even own a bike, but I was like, "Sure, that sounds fun." And so over time, I kept doing all these cool trips with my friends. And when I started my business, like I knew that that was something I wanted to incorporate.
So, what was the motivation factor to start your own business? I mean, uh, most people would just say, "Hey, I'm just going to stick in the military and get my 20 years and ride it out."
Yeah, so I did the 4 years in the Marine Corps, but I never wanted to make it a career,
Mhm.
and so I ended up getting out and I started working for an engineering firm and went on to become a software developer. And so I did that for 20 years. So at that company. But the last few years of my corporate career, I just started having this urge for a change. I wanted to work more with people instead of like I could go into my cubicle and write code all day and not talk to anybody. And so I wanted to interact more with people. And so I started to explore what that could look like at the company. And
Mhm.
they kept telling me no. They kept telling me we didn't have that title. I was tapped out at what I was making in my salary. That's what they kept telling me, and I kept butting heads with them. And then finally, the last year of my career, I was leading a project and we were rewriting our company's timekeeping system. So it was 22,000 paychecks were reliant on my team delivering. And I was putting in like 16, 18-hour days. I had four friends die. One of my coworkers committed suicide. And so I just decided, like, I rolled out that project. I got a huge raise. I got a big promotion. I was like, I'm out of here. And so I leaped. And in hindsight, that probably wasn't the smartest move,
Yeah.
but that's the Marine in me. Like I've just got to take a
Uh,
risk.
I've taken that leap many times, and 6 months down the road, you're like, "What the hell did I just do?" But it always turns out the way I had hoped. Although it makes my family nervous as heck. So I think sometimes we have to take that leap. It's a fight or flight. And so you either get into that groove and say, "Look, I have to fight for what I want," or I just have to leave. And but there's, I think the problem is that people get into the entrepreneurial world. They think it's going to be, rainbows and cupcakes, and it doesn't turn out that way. You know,
It's
they're
so
they're
true.
they're not prepared to take on the shit that happens every day, and the when it turns to crap, they bail. And that's not what being an entrepreneur is all about. And I'm kind of glad that there are people like you in the world that are coaching entrepreneurs on how to conquer the world.
I do think it's really key because this entrepreneur journey is not easy. For me, I'm really positive and easygoing, but I was not prepared for the emotional roller coaster. And so it's made me have to tap into a resilience and a determination and really focusing on the impact that I know I make. So then that way, those days that are really tough and, I want to throw in the towel, that I just, keep pushing through. And so I'm definitely grateful that I have um, that stick to itiveness.
But you've created a retreat, for people to also kind of enhance what they're doing to get better. Uh, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, like I said, traveling around with my friends over the years, I realized just how much personal growth I got out of that.
Hmm.
And so, to be able to get an entrepreneur out of their, day to day, so many people start their own businesses for that freedom, but then they never really take the time for themselves. And so, to be able to get around other like minded people in this super cool environment, doing things that you never thought you would do, for example, I took a group to Belize and we went swimming with sharks.
Wow.
And you make up all these stories in your head about how you're going to get your arm chewed off, and and they realize like, oh, I was just fine. By the end, they're trying to hold the shark. So and then so my next one is in Portugal, and we're going to be biking along the coast. And so it's just like the military, and that your objective is to get from point A to point B, and there is no other option. And people that aren't even cyclists, to learn how to tap into that and really enjoy the challenge of it, is really powerful. And then it boosts their confidence. So then when they get back and they work on their business, it shows through in all kinds of ways.
And the funny thing is that The more I travel, the more I go to retreats or conventions or conferences, the more I get inspired. When I come back, my business grows. And so I think it's very key that and you hit it. You kind of briefly talked about it. Is that entrepreneurs get so ingrained in working so many hours. I find sometimes I'm in front of a computer, I'm talking to somebody, 60 hours goes by without and I'm like, okay, where to go? But we don't take time to you know time for ourselves.
Yes, and the thing is even if you really love what you're doing and you're spending all these days helping people, but to take that time, even Bill Gates does it, has like think weeks. The creativity that starts to happen, if you're sitting on the beach after you just had this really great discussion with other entrepreneurs, or the meditative capacity of being on a bike looking out at the countryside. So it can show up, that creativity can show up in all different kinds of ways.
So what's the process? How do you take somebody that's new as an entrepreneur and transform them into something better?
So I like to start with other people, because when you're doing personal development and working on your own leadership skills, a lot of times that there are these subtle things going on with the way you think because of the people you're surrounded by. And so we just kind of take this inventory of people, and we really dig into how they're actually building their network, and what they really want to seek. And so then they can start to surround themselves with people that inspire them and drive them, and it feels much more rewarding. So I always start with other people, and then once they start to have those ahas, then it's much easier to start looking at yourself, where that's where it starts to get uncomfortable. But I think a lot of people, we set goals all the time, but to really sit down and think about like what makes you tick and what do you really want your life to look like, and gaining that clarity, I don't think people really give that enough time.
Yeah, I mean, I sat down about 6 months ago and I said, this is what I want the next 6 months to look like. This is what I want to have in the bank. This is what I want to do. This, and I thought, okay, how am I going to get there? But the more I focused on it, the more I hammered it in. This is what we're going to do, and I had to change some things. It was a little painful at first, but you know, it's when we recorded this December 12th. Um, I'll have hit all those goals that I set out to do. And it's almost the end of the year, and I'm taking the week off of Christmas and the week off of New Year's, and so I think that every entrepreneur needs to have goals that are written down, that are tangible, that are not so far out in the distance that they never are going to get them, but they're incremental, that they know that step by step that they can kind of conquer them.
Yes, and I think, especially coming from my software days, like I don't think people break things down enough. So
Hmm.
next thing you know, something that a goal that they had is taking much longer than they thought because they didn't really dig into that process enough. But I also think it's important to like just look at that. For me, it's always been lifestyle, like that big picture and how you're living. And
Hmm.
so making sure that you're clear on that. So even as you set these goals, it's still complementing that bigger vision.
Yeah, I mean, it just I find that I think we go back to fear. People get on the social media, they think that they're going to promote themselves. They have this fear of video. They have this fear of putting themselves out there. They have this fear of failure, and then they say, "Well, stuff's not working." That's because you didn't put effort into it.
Mhm. And I was the same way. I think I did my first live video in 2015, but then I was still so sporadic because I just felt judged. And
Yeah.
ironically, I felt more judged on my personal profile. So I committed to going live every Tuesday on my personal profile to get through that discomfort. And now, like, I run into people at the grocery store and they're like, oh, I really like this video. And they never even say anything. So I've gotten more comfortable with that. And what's really funny is these entrepreneurs I work with, almost one of the first comments out of their mouth is they're like, I love your videos and I see, or I know I need to do more videos.
Yeah.
And they don't look at it as there's this fear that they have to conquer. They just
Yeah.
think that it's something they need to push through without realizing, like, if they actually had somebody that helped them do that, they would, do it a lot faster and get results.
I know that, and I don't know if you did it, but I know that my son and some of his military buddies all have jumped out of airplanes. You're never going to catch me jumping out of an airplane. But when it comes to marketing, when it comes to writing books, when it comes to making videos, I'm not afraid to fail. And I think that each one of us has a fear so deep, like me jumping out of airplanes, that eventually if we overcome those fears, we can do anything.
Absolutely. I have friends that are, combat veterans, and they like, oh, there's no way I could do what you do. And I'm like, what? I'm just like hitting the button and going live. But it's just like anything. It's a muscle you build. And so if all of a sudden you jumped out of a plane, the next thing you know, you'd realize like, oh, that wasn't so bad. And you'd be more apt to do it again.
Yeah. I guess the jumping out part is fine. It's the impact on the ground that bothers me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm all about experience. Like, I'll try anything once. If anything, it makes for a good story, and I know never to do it again.
So how do you have fun? I mean, I know you're bike riding and you do all this adventurous hiking but what do you do when you're not helping clients?
For me, I love working with charities.
Hmm.
I do an adventure race every year here in Colorado. Some years I volunteer, other years I race it. A lot of the racers are injured combat veterans, and so it's just really a great way to stay connected with that community and to give back. I also have gone with Team Rubicon down to Houston. I did some hurricane cleanup down there, incredibly powerful. But just in general, like when I'm home, I'm, rotating between my desk, the coffee table, and the gym. And so now that I do my retreats, I make it a point to, do stuff like that occasionally. And then I also go to retreats just to recharge myself where I'm not the one responsible.
Mhm. Do you have a favorite mentor that you go to when you go to retreats?
So I've done retreats with Danelle Delgado.
Hmm.
She's very much uh, like I'm like a strong, powerful encourager, and she pours like this belief in people that makes them feel unstoppable. So I've been to Bora Bora with her. I've been to Greece with her. Absolutely incredible. And then I also have another mentor, Todd Herman, and he's very much a hard ass, and he's so savvy in business. Like some things that come out of his mouth and the way he thinks just blows me away. So I really make it a point to always have a mentor myself.
Yeah, there's things that come out of my mouth that blow people away, but I don't think it's a good thing. Very sarcastic, witty, and which makes some very makes for some very funny books, but I think it turns some people off. But one of the things that I encourage people is that you have to have your own personality when you're an entrepreneur, and you have to let that personality shine. So if you're kind of an Archie Bunker type like me, where you say whatever you want, it's going to polarize some people. Whereas if you're a very quiet person and you're very politically correct, you may get more clients, but are they going to be the right fit for you? So, and I think with you know having someone like you can kind of lead them in that balance.
Yes, I do think it's important to be transparent in who you are, and it just makes things easier, both online and offline. Like you just are how you are. You don't have this persona on social media.
Right.
Some of my posts that where I'm the most transparent about my struggles are the ones that people respond to the most, and so I think it's really important to do that. And it comes down to that courage and that comfort and
Well,
just
I think also you're leading with heart, and it is transparent, but there's a lot of passion. There's a lot of connection that people can see right away.
yes, and like you said, like the whole messaging, like being comfortable with who you are. That's been a journey as well. I've been doing this for 5 years, and more I've gotten more comfortable with that. And
Hmm.
also, on the flip side, just being more aggressive. I cuss. That's a habit from the Marine Corps I haven't gotten rid of, and so I started doing that more in my videos and in my posts and stuff. And people are like, "I really love that you say that." So it really is funny what people will connect to, and I'm sure the same thing up to some people off. So.
So how do people get a hold of you? Where do they go, and do they go to a website, Facebook?
I hang out mostly on Facebook, so feel free to send me a friend request or on my business page, connect with me there as well. It's Tami McVay Mentor. And then my website is tammymcveigh.com. So they can connect with me there as well.
No Twitter, huh?
I have Twitter, but I generally only tweet when it goes from Instagram to Twitter. So I'm trying
That's
to
all I do too.
I'm beefing up my game on Instagram. So
Yeah,
we'll see how
yeah.
this goes.
I tell people you can find me Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and Twitter is just chaotic. I don't like doing it, and
Yeah.
even though all my posts from Facebook and they get mirrored to Twitter, I try to stay away.
Same here. The only time I ever use it is when I need to plug a business in hopes that I get something free.
So you do videos once a week?
I go live every Tuesday, and then I try to do one on the weekend. I'm getting more consistent with that, but not every week. And then the same thing. I feel uncomfortable in other places, and so that's my goal for this next year: is start getting out of my own comfort zone and going live on LinkedIn and Instagram.
How do you do go live when you're at retreats?
Yes, definitely. Give them a tour of, the luxury villa that we're staying at, or while I'm riding my bike. I'm always taking selfies with animals. I just find it funny. So I'm sharing that fun stuff. So,
Now, are these actual bikes, or are these e-bikes, or these scooters, or
so with the bike trips, you can do a regular bike or an e-bike. And so, some of my clients, they're not cyclists. So those e-bikes are just like mopeds, and
yeah.
they're a lot of fun.
Well, my wife and I took a tour when we were in Los Angeles, not Los Angeles, and Louisiana. We were in what I just kind of I don't even know where I was. But anyway, we rented these bikes, and it was a three hour tour around the city. And after 3 hours, I couldn't even walk. It was so bad. I'm like, oh, how are you supposed to do this at a retreat going for days and days?
Well, I mean, the great thing is that's your job for the day. So you ride a little bit, you go check out some cool castle, then you hop back on your bike, you go have some tapas for lunch, and then you hop back on the bike. And so we definitely mix it up. The great thing about these is, yes, we have to get from A to B, but we can go explore any way we want. We just show up when we get there. So it's
It was
keeps
New
that magic.
Orleans. Why couldn't I even think of New Orleans? And the funny thing is New Orleans is a great city. Although what I remember of it, every street corner smelled like marijuana and urine. So maybe that's probably why I blocked it out of my memory.
Well, I can't say I've been to New Orleans, so
So hey, this was great. I want to thank you for being on the show, and everybody, please go to Tammy's website, learn more about it, learn more about the retreat, because it just sounds awesome. I think you're going to learn a lot, and we'll see you on the next podcast.
thank you.